Yeah, I saw that. I was expecting a big boom. Instead of that, it just went in like a dagger.
Yep.
Okay mate, I'll move down for the next one. Starting at the top down because it's leaning. So I can leave the limbs on. And hopefully they'll tip over. They'll kind of help pull it that way. It means a lot less cutting. Just I had to climb through the canopy. But it was as quick to keep roping, clipping and unclipping, alternating with lines, as it would have been stopping and cutting and then, you know, moving up. So as long as I've judged the lean right, and it is leaning, I feel like these pieces are important to help pull it over, then I can leave them on. My only worry was that little hemlock right down there. I don't want to hit it and knock it straight across the road. That would be a disaster. So, carry on. So that job's finished now. Hope you've enjoyed these last few videos. I thought I would answer a couple of questions that are inevitably going to be asked. People ask the same questions because they either make assumptions or it's not obvious why they're seeing certain things. And in this job in particular, it comes up all the time. And if you don't read the comments, then you don't know if someone else has already asked you a question, or you don't read the description at the start of the video. Anyway, I'll try to address them points now, and it'll save me the job later, hopefully. So that is McMillan Park, or Cathedral Grove. You may have seen me post videos from there many times before, usually around this time of year, in December. Perhaps for the last 6 years, I think we've been going there. And I'm subcontracting on these jobs for a bigger company who has the contract. There's usually several subcontractors there as well that come together to help the job go smoothly, including climbers, fallers, the blasters, and some other help or support. And then there's all the workers within that company as well, whoever's available at the time. They tend to spread out over quite a big area of BC and not always available. So anyway, it lasted a few days. Obviously I don't video everything that goes on or that I'm involved with, because I just try to get some, and that's it. So I'm often asked, like, why don't you just fell the trees? Why are you climbing them? And well, the requirement is to shorten the trees. Firstly, the trees that you see me working on here are either dying or they've been identified as having root decay. And being where they are, then they're usually within falling distance of the trails or the road or something or other, and that's why they've decided to kill them, essentially. But the requirement is to leave them stood as like standing deadwood in the forest, which it is really beneficial to a forest. So they leave them stood up at like 25 meters or something like that, sometimes more. I usually leave them higher because it's deceptive trying to judge height in an environment like that where there's no buildings or anything to gauge your height from. So but anyway, that's how the left, and that's why the left. Now we also have to be careful that we don't damage any of the other big trees or leave branches hung up there, or smash any smaller trees over into the road or onto the trails, because there are a network of trails that run through the park, through the main area mostly, but you don't always see them. There's also fencing and signs and toilets and stuff like that, but it's just, if you didn't know better, you'd think I was just randomly working in the forest for no reason, but that's not the case at all. And the same goes for the fallen wood. It is left in place because it's good nourishment for the forest. People say, well, isn't that a waste of wood? Well, not really. It isn't. Depends on what you're trying to achieve at the best of it. If you walk into an old growth forest which hasn't been interfered with, or it's the wrong word, managed as a productive forest for extracting and utilizing timber, then you will find that the whole floor is covered with fallen logs, which become nurse logs, which are generally covered in moss and have other trees growing out of them, and the whole place usually has this real damp, wet feel to it all year, which is why it's rare that these, you don't hear forest fires hardly in old growth forests, because they retain so much moisture throughout the year, and this is a big reason why. So that's why it's left. If you look on Google Maps, go onto the satellite imagery and just kind of zoom in over Vancouver Island, and you will see clearly just how much of the island is kind of managed as a productive forest, like for timber extraction. You'll see it'll look like a leopard's back with all the different patches of green and the clear cuts, and it's only the very dark green areas that you'll see is what remains of the old virgin forest. And it's not very nice to look at, to be honest. It's not it's not good. So, but you know, anyway, I'm not pro-logging, I'm not anti-logging, I'm just telling you the truth. Look for yourself, let your own eyes decide. And so it can't all be about money anyway, you know, and that's why you know, you get these designated parks, because there are so few of them, like this one, where you can just pull up, get out your car, and you're into an ancient forest. I think they've traced back a massive fire that did happen here about 400 years ago. So what you're seeing, a lot of the trees, if they're not evidently fire damaged, they started going back 400 years ago. So they've been stood a long time. And that's it. I don't think there's much else to say. I did notice a comment in one of the other videos. A fella asked, "Is it just to paraphrase what he said? He was asking is it a competitive sort of atmosphere on site? You know, is there any kind of rivalry going on between, you know, workers, climbers, you know, trying to outdo each other?" I suppose no. The answer is no. It's really not that kind of atmosphere, because everyone understands the seriousness of the tasks that is in front of them here, and you know, every experience I've had there has been a good one, where, you know, people are trying to help each other to get finished sooner, to get finished safely, so we can all go home on time, you know, 2-3 days later, whatever it is. So no, there's none of that nonsense. It really isn't the place for it at all, and I've never seen any evidence of it either. I think working on those sort of trees, it sort of, I mean, not only is it physically hard, climbing through all that, you know, the big wide stems, the mossy, crumbly bark, trying to scramble your way up, and then, you know, you've got the weather elements to deal with at, you know, such great heights, and, you know, the consequences to things going wrong could be quite diabolical quite quickly. So you know, being put in that situation, it does kind of cleanse you of any of that nonsense mentioned earlier. It doesn't. There's just no place for it at all. So, but anyway, that's it. We got finished. Anyway, you know, everything went pretty well. Very rough weather the first morning, but it did clear up. The wind dropped, the rain stopped, and the next day was really good weather after that. And then on the Friday I went up to another site, Kennedy Lake, the road widening project there on the cliffs. You've seen me post videos from there as well, topping the big cedars and the blasting that we did up there. And the hazard tree falling of, you know, all the big rotten cedars. So you have to go back probably 2-3 years to see that on my, if you just go through my archives, that are the the videos, you'll find them. It's either hazard tree falling or danger tree falling, something like that. I think hazard tree falling. Go and have a look. That's interesting stuff. Anyway, went up there, and it's a long windy trail up the cliffside and through forest, and I somehow managed, I took my cameras, 2 cameras with me in a camera box, and I lost them. So it I had them in a bag, and they must have tumbled out. I didn't even need them. I don't know why I took them up there, but I did. And the bag must have been partly open, and it worked its way all the way open, and the box must have fell out, and God knows where it is. We had a look for it, but it's gone. So really disappointed about that. And it wasn't that bothered at the time, but I am now. It's kind of needled me a bit since, especially because you can't buy those particular GoPros anymore. They were the GoPro Sessions, the little kind of box shaped ones, and they don't make them anymore. So that was the Friday, but at least I had the good sense to get the footage from Cathedral Grove off and transfer it onto the laptop while I was staying in the motels. So at least you're able to watch this stuff, and it's not just a story of what may have been or what I did, but I can't show you. So anyway, that's it. Took a couple of days away from Christmas. Hope it goes well for everyone. Hope you have a good time. And I don't know when, but I'll probably see you after Christmas. I'll have to start thinking about new cameras now. And but not now. I'll have a rest first from all this. But anyway, I'll catch you in the new year. All the best, everyone.